Camilla told no one she was going, not her staff, not her family. She got in a car and drove to Highgrove in quite a hurry, according to Vanity Fair, slipping in to sit at the table while Harry's children met their grandfather for the first time in years. Now, stop and ask yourself one question. If Camilla's presence at that reunion was, as one royal author insists, completely non-negotiable, why did she have to arrive like that? Why the secrecy? Why the hurry? Why tell no one, not even her own family? Because non-negotiable people don't sneak in. Essential people don't drive over in a rush and keep it from everyone around them. That's not how you behave when your place in the room is guaranteed. That's how you behave when your place in the room is exactly the thing nobody's sure about. And that contradiction, right there, between what two different sources said about the same afternoon, is the whole story. So let's take it apart. Here's what actually happened, confirmed. On July 10, Prince Harry brought his entire family to England and reunited with King Charles at Highgrove. Meghan was there, Archie, 7, Lilibet, 5. Children who hadn't seen their grandfather in literal years, since 2022, when Lilibet was too young to even remember it. A 77-year-old king, 2 years into cancer treatment, finally in a room with grandchildren he'd been waiting to know. That part is real, and that part is genuinely moving.
And then there's the question everyone actually wanted answered. Was Camilla there? According to royal author Catherine Mayer, speaking to People, the answer is yes, and it was never in doubt. Her exact words, "She is a non-negotiable part of Charles's life. There is no reconciliation with him without her." Read that carefully, because it's a bigger claim than it looks. Mayer isn't just saying Camilla attended. She's saying Camilla is a condition, that there is no version of Charles reconciling with his estranged son that doesn't include the wife that son has spent years attacking in public. No Camilla, no reconciliation. She's the price of admission. That's one version. Now here's the other, and this is where it gets strange. A source told Vanity Fair that Camilla dropped everything to be at the meeting and drove over from her house to Highgrove in quite a hurry. The insider went further. Charles wanted Camilla to be there for moral support, and because she has been a pillar of strength for him throughout all the drama with Harry, and she dropped everything. She told no one, not even her family. She just got in the car and headed over. They were all on a mission to keep the meeting as watertight as possible. She told no one, not even her family. Now put the two accounts side by side, because they don't fit, and the gap between them is the most revealing thing about this entire day.
Version 1. Camilla is the non-negotiable pillar, the essential presence, the woman without whom reconciliation is impossible. Version 2. Camilla dropped everything at short notice, told nobody, and drove over in a hurry in an operation designed to be watertight. Those two things cannot both be casually true. If her presence was a settled, non-negotiable fact, there's no need for secrecy, no need for hurry, no need to keep it from her own family. You plan for a fixed thing. You don't sprint to it in silence. So what actually happened? Here's the honest read, and it's less flattering than either source intends. The secrecy and the hurry suggest her presence was not a calm, agreed-upon fact. It suggests it was managed, that someone made a decision, maybe Charles, maybe Camilla herself, to get her into that room fast and quietly before it became a subject anyone could object to. Because there was one very obvious person who might have objected, and his name is Harry. Which brings us to why any of this is awkward in the first place. And it's not a small awkwardness. It's one of the most personal things Harry has ever put in writing. In Spare, Harry described begging his father not to marry Camilla. Not disliking her, not resenting her, begging. His words, "We support you," we said. "We endorse Camilla," we said. "Just please don't marry her."
Just be together, Pa. Two sons asking their father to love this woman privately, but not make her their stepmother, not make her official, not put her on the path to the throne. And then Harry adds the accusation that turns a family disagreement into something colder.
He writes that after those private conversations, Camilla began to play the long game, a campaign aimed at marriage and eventually the crown. A campaign aimed at the crown. That's how Harry, in his own best-selling memoir, characterized the woman who was sitting across from him on July 10 while his children met their grandfather. Sit with the scene that actually creates. Harry, who wrote that Camilla ran a campaign to seize the throne. Harry, who begged his father not to marry her. Harry, who has implied in a televised interview that she fed stories about him to the tabloids to rehabilitate her own image. That Harry, bringing his wife and his 2 small children into a house to sit at a table with that woman for the sake of a father he's trying to reconcile with. Either Harry has made an enormous amount of peace that he's never announced, or he walked into that room and swallowed every word he's ever written because his father made her presence the price. Non-negotiable, remember. No reconciliation without her. And if that's true, if Camilla really was the condition, then the secrecy makes a darker kind of sense. You don't tell Harry in advance that the woman from Speyer will be at the reconciliation. You get her there quietly, in a hurry, watertight, so that by the time anyone could object, she's already in the room and the moment is already happening. You present it as a fact, not a negotiation, because if it were a negotiation, it might not survive. Now, let's widen the lens, because Camilla arriving in secret to sit at Harry's reunion isn't an isolated oddity. It fits a pattern that's been building for 3 years, and the pattern is about exactly one thing: Camilla's position, and how fragile it actually is underneath the crown. Because here's what almost nobody says. Camilla is the least secure senior figure in this entire family. Not the most powerful, the most exposed. Look at how William has treated her, decision by decision. When William inherited the Duchy of Cornwall in September 2022, the $1.2 billion estate, Camilla's own sister, Annabel Elliot, who'd worked across duchy properties for nearly 2 decades, quietly vanished from the payroll. No dispute, no statement, just gone, replaced by William's own people. December of last year, Kate wore the enormous Oriental circlet tiara to a state banquet, a piece she'd never worn before, and according to Radar Online, Camilla was furious, telling courtiers that Kate and William were behaving almost as if Buckingham Palace were theirs. June of this year, at Peter Philip's wedding, a dispute over the bride borrowing a tiara reportedly escalated into Camilla accusing William of treating Charles's own reign as merely a formality. An insider said you could cut the tension between them with a knife. And the deepest cut of all, royal commentator Angela Levin has claimed that William doesn't consider Camilla a grandmother to his children at all. In her words, William has made clear that Camilla is the wife of his father, but not a step-grandmother to his children. 21 years of marriage, a crown, and in the household of the future king, she's reportedly not counted as a grandmother. So here's the woman who drove to Highgrove in secret. She's the queen. She has the title, the crown, the coronation. And underneath all of it, her entire position rests on one single load-bearing fact: Charles being alive. He's 77. He's sick. And the day his reign ends, every protection she has stops being a right and becomes William's discretion. The same William who removed her sister, who reportedly won't call her his children's grandmother, who has spent 3 years quietly making clear whose monarchy comes next.
That's the context for the hurry. That's the context for the secrecy. A woman whose place is genuinely uncertain, being moved quietly into the most sensitive room in the family, at the one event where her presence is both, according to one source, essential, and, according to the behavior itself, apparently controversial enough to require stealth. Here's my honest take. I don't think Camilla did anything wrong on July 10th. If Charles asked her to be there for moral support and she dropped everything and went, that's a wife showing up for a husband in a hard moment. That's loyalty, and it's real. And by every account, their bond over 50 years is one of the few genuinely solid things in this entire fractured family. But the way it was done tells you everything about where she actually stands. A secure queen doesn't arrive in secret. A non-negotiable presence doesn't require a watertight operation. The fact that getting Camilla into that room had to be managed, fast, silent, hidden even from her own family, tells you her presence was not a settled fact. It was a decision that someone worried might not hold up if it were made in the open. And the person it might not have held up in front of is the one who wrote a book begging his father not to marry her. So which was it? Was Camilla the essential pillar, the non-negotiable heart of the reconciliation, as people was told?
Or was she the awkward necessity, hurried in the back way before the son who resents her could react, as Vanity Fair's account quietly implies? The two stories can't both be fully true, and the truth is probably sitting right in the space between them. A woman who is, at the same time, the most important person in Charles's life and the least secure figure in his family. Indispensable to him, expendable to everyone who comes after him. She got in the car. She told no one. She drove over in a hurry, and she sat down across from a man who once wrote that she ran a campaign to seize the crown, while his children, who barely know their grandfather, learned his face for the first time. Whatever that room was, it wasn't reconciliation. Reconciliation doesn't need to be watertight. It doesn't need to be secret. It doesn't need one of its central figures to arrive like she's slipping in a side door of her own husband's home. And the next time we find out where Camilla really stands, it won't be from a warm photo or a palace statement. It'll be from the day Charles is no longer there to make her presence non-negotiable, and we find out at last exactly how negotiable it was all along.